First off, before we get started, there will be spoilers in this video because I'm going to be talking about what happened in the first season and kind of seeing where those storylines can carry through onto the second one. So if you haven't watched this show and you don't want to know anything about it, then click off now because there will be spoilers. If you've watched it and you're ready to go on, then let's get into my 5 things that I want to see in season 2. So at number 5, we have more on the commission. Now, in the first season, it was established that number 5, the character, worked for the commission and he carried out assassinations on their behalf to ensure that certain events in history took place and weren't disturbed in the time-space continuum or whatever. And so I'd like to find out more about the commission because they seem to exist outside of the scope of time. And they could basically hop into any time that they like to basically correct any anomalies. So I think it's a really interesting concept. Like I mentioned in my review, it's very Legends of Tomorrow-y. So I'm looking forward to learning more about the commission and how they work and what was number 5's role in that institution during the years where he had to work for them. But overall, it's not something that I'm most eager to see because, again, it's very Legends of Tomorrow and I already have a show all about that. So for me, this storyline isn't really the most attractive thing about this show. It's not really what makes it special, and so that's why it's on my number 5. Number 4, I want to find out more about Reginald Hargreaves. So his past is alluded to in the first season, but they don't really dive in to the same extent that they do with some of the siblings. So I would like to find out more about him. You know, what was it about the kids that drew his attention? What is this mission that he keeps talking about, saving the world? Did he know about the apocalypse as he told Klaus when he summoned him? Or is it just a coincidence that there happened to be an apocalypse happening, but he was generally just preparing his children for the end of the world? Like, what was the mission that he was preparing them for and why? And also I want to find out more about just his journey into becoming this eccentric billionaire, because it's kind of established in the story but not really delved into. Like, what is it that made him so rich? Why is it that this society basically accepted this rich man to just go ahead and use his children as an army of sorts? Like, all these questions surrounding this character I would be interested to find out more on. And also his relationship with Pogo and Grace. What inspired him to create this robot that looks the way that she does and acts the way that she does as well? Like, is there a backstory there? Was she inspired by his wife, etc., etc.? Like, there's all these questions surrounding Mr. Hargreaves, and it's not really clarified in the first season. Fair enough, because I like the idea of focusing on the siblings for the first season to kind of establish them as characters because they are the stars of the show. But it would be nice to dive in deeper into their father, who's this mysterious and really stern and stubborn character, and maybe humanize him a bit more and have an understanding of where he was coming from. At number 3, we have Ben. I want to find out more about Ben, aka number 6, I think. He died at a really young age, according to season 1, and Klaus is able to essentially manifest him in ghost form and communicate with him beyond the grave, but we don't get to find out more about his backstory and how he died and his relationship with his siblings and their father, in the same way that all the other siblings get their own episode where that is kind of established. So I'd like to see more from him. I'd like to find out more, and I think it could be really interesting considering how Klaus is discovering how his powers are able to affect Ben and perhaps even his communication with the dead in general. So I think if it's possible that Klaus could bring him back from the dead, it would be really interesting to see more about his backstory when that happens. So he's definitely a really cool character in this series. He's always looking over Klaus and making sure he's making the right judgment. I'd also like to see more interactions between him and the other siblings. It'd be really cool if he could interact with them and maybe even feel them physically, so he's basically in their their plane of existence, even though he is dead. And like I said, if Klaus could bring him back, that would be even better. At number 2, we have more explanation on the 43 children that were born simultaneously to mothers who had not been previously pregnant. Now, I don't know if I've mentioned this up until now, but I have not read any of the Umbrella Academy comics. I have no idea what's going on in this series, so I'm interested to see what the explanation is, if there is one, for the kids that were all born at the same time, the same day, to mothers who hadn't been pregnant yet. How comes they ended up with superpowers? You know, what is the origins of these superpowers? Well, we don't know. And so I'd like a bit more explanation on that for season 2. I was surprised that they didn't even touch on that. Like, they just went straight into the story of the 7 kids. But there are a bunch out there that Mr. Hargreaves wasn't able to adopt. And so I want to find out more about where they are and what their powers are, if they all have powers. I'm assuming they do. And yeah, whether or not the siblings will ever interact with some of the other people that were born on the same day as them. So that would be really fun to find out more about, and perhaps even taking a look at Mr. Hargreaves' backstory would give us a clue as to why it is that he was unable to adopt some of them. He was able to adopt others. You know, that would just be an interesting aspect to the story, which was largely completely ignored for season 1, which is fair, because I kind of like the fact that they just dived in straight into the Umbrella Academy itself. But there's so much going on surrounding just that premise that it'd be really fun to see more of. And finally, number 1 of my list of things that I want to see for season 2 of the Umbrella Academy is just more of these amazing characters coming together, having funny moments together, tragic moments, just meaningful interactions between them, because I absolutely love that. I love seeing Diego work along number 5. I love seeing Alison and Luther's relationship grow. And I love anyone with Klaus, because like I've already said, Klaus is my favorite character in this whole show, and more of him is always a good thing. So I can't wait to see how they tackle being in the apocalypse, and to see how number 7, aka Vanya, basically comes to terms with her powers and what she has caused for the world. And hopefully more shenanigans will ensue, and it will make for a very interesting season 2 if Netflix allows it. So that's it, guys, for my list of top 5 things that I want to see for season 2 of the Umbrella Academy. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you had a fun time with this video, please be sure to give it a thumbs up. If you guys have any thoughts on what you'd like to see for the 2nd season of the show, then please be sure to include it down in the comments below. Thank you again for watching, guys. I really appreciate it, and I will see you in the next video. Bye!